Let me tell you a little story. Around sometime in March here in the Philippines, a little company called Solar Entertainment got into an argument with UIP, which is, I believe, United International Pictures, which is kind of like a joint company of Paramount and Universal. So they got into an argument, and it seemed like for the entire year we wouldn't be getting any movies from Paramount or Universal. But the feud is now settled, and here we have the first of what we hope is, belated movies. This is Noah. Noah is directed by Darren Aronofsky, written by Aronofsky and Ari Handel, and stars Russell Crowe and Jennifer Connelly from A Beautiful Mind, Logan Lerman and Emma Watson from The Perks of Being a Wallflower, Ray Winstone, and Anthony Hopkins. Now, in Noah, played by Russell Crowe, begins to see visions of the world being cleansed by this giant flood which will wipe everybody out because the entire world, except for Noah's family, has turned evil, and they begin building an ark in order to save themselves. However, people obviously don't want them to build the ark, so there are people going after them. And then Noah and his family discover that the danger isn't just out there, but it's also maybe within them. So Noah is a movie I really wanted to watch for quite a while, not really because it's from the Bible or anything, but because I think Darren Aronofsky is a really really interesting director. No matter what he does, he always makes it really interesting. Like I thought Black Swan when I went in was gonna be a movie about ballet and stuff. Oh my god, I was wrong. It's also interesting to me that this is like the third like Christian inspired movie to come out this year alone. We had Heaven is for Real, which obviously has a Christian slant to it, even if I don't really consider it a Christian movie. And then you had Son of God, and now we have Noah. So was all this wait worth it? Well, in my opinion, Noah is definitely a flawed movie. However, you can always count on Darren Aronofsky to make a movie unique. First of all, Darren Aronofsky is really well known for like these smaller indie kind of movies, like Black Swan, Requiem for a Dream, stuff like that. And this is his first like big blockbuster thing, and looks fantastic. There are certain creatures here in this movie. I don't want to spoil because they never showed them in the trailers. They're fallen angels, you could say, and they look pretty unique and they look really really good. The design of the creatures and just the way they move and stuff, it's very very interesting. It's definitely something I didn't expect to see in a biblical movie. Some of the animals don't really look that convincing at all. However, you kind of do just kind of ignore it because the entire thing as a whole, it really really just feels so interesting and unique. Now, the cool thing about the look of this movie in terms of like production design, costume design and stuff is that they really kind of made it look like a post-apocalyptic movie. Usually when you talk about biblical epics and stuff, you imagine, the whole sandals and, tunics and stuff and, lots and lots of sand. But I love how they portray this world of Noah as kind of like a humanity at its, at its end point. Like you really kind of get the sense that, okay, God has to start over. He has to hit the reset button because humanity has pretty much depleted everything in the earth. And I'd never thought of the story of Noah that way, and I thought that was a really cool way to look at this story. It really adds gravity to the situation. You really understand that this is a desperate kind of thing. And whoever did the cinematography for this movie definitely has to be commended. This movie looks incredible. Like there are certain shots that really reminded me of Prometheus. Like it looked like the planet from Prometheus. All the colors here are saturated, which again gives support to the idea of it being kind of post-apocalyptic. And Darren Aronofsky usually puts some shaky cam into his movies. However, I don't think it's distracting at all. It really kind of helps with the tone he's trying to set, and here it really kind of makes you feel this whole primal urge that humanity is feeling, and the violence is really really dirty. This movie is surprisingly violent, but really just as like a visual piece, Noah is incredible to look at. The landscapes are breathtaking. They really look natural. Like it reminded me of Secret Life of Walter Mitty, where they shot stuff in like Iceland and stuff. Like this looks like Iceland, I guess. The cool thing about the plot here in Noah is that it goes from biblical epic to psychological thriller. Like at a certain point, this movie is, to me at least, very clearly divided into three acts. They're not necessarily equal in length. It starts out being this whole biblical epic that you were expecting from the trailers, and then suddenly when they get onto the ark, it becomes the psychological thriller kind of thing, which is definitely Aronofsky's forte. And I like that because the biblical epic stuff really did kind of serve as just a build up and like a context for what eventually happens on the ark, which to me is like the main conflict. And I just love that, the fact that people are able to explore these Bible characters who, really honestly speaking, don't really have depth to them. But then it's nice to look at them as human beings. And all the characters here are very well defined, with the exception of Douglas Booth's character Shem, like one of the sons of Noah. He doesn't really have anything going for him, but everyone else surprisingly is driven by different things and they all react to things differently, and it's great to see that no one really had flat characters. And in terms of acting, the acting is great across the board. I can talk about all of them here because they're all worthy of mention. Russell Crowe is a great Noah here because you can feel the weight on his back also, that he really believes in this these visions he's been seeing, and he really dedicates himself to them, even if sometimes he doesn't, you can tell he doesn't want to do the things that he has to do. And it's great how Russell Crowe is able to convey this sense of, is he crazy or is he just really, really dedicated to this task that's been given to him. Jennifer Connelly is really, really good in this movie. She's a great actress. There's one scene where she gets all emotional and stuff, and usually when actresses get emotional to me, for the most part, sometimes they don't feel very genuine, but here, she really did feel genuine as Noah's wife. Ray Winstone plays the main antagonist, if you could say that, and he's this like angry tribesman guy who is trying to stop Noah and his family from building this ark and stuff. And again, he could be a cookie cutter villain if played by someone else, but he does a really good job with it. Emma Watson surprisingly puts in a really, really good performance. We're not really used to seeing Emma Watson do these kinds of roles. Here she really plays a different kind of character, and she puts it across very well, as well as Logan Lerman, who ever since Perks has been surprising me, is actually a really good actor. And here, he has his own little arc and stuff, and he handles it very maturely. And Anthony Hopkins, of course, also is great. He's pretty underutilized in this movie, but he's definitely having fun with the role. What surprised me about Aronofsky's directing in this movie is that he was able to shift to this whole blockbuster kind of filmmaking so easily, because you're used to him doing indie stuff, and here he really does capture this scale, but at the same time he never loses focus on his forte, which is the psychological side of things. And when he does the biblical epic stuff in the first act, it's very, very immersive. He builds his world very, very well. But like I mentioned earlier, this movie definitely is flawed in my opinion. For me, it's very uneven, like these three acts spread across. The second act is definitely the best when they're on the arc, for me at least. Like, I love that stuff. Everything about it was great, I think, but the first act takes a bit too long, like it really, really kind of spends too much time on certain details that don't really matter in the end, and some things which just kind of get a bit silly. And the third act of this movie, the ending, which is really short, it wraps up just way too quickly. Like, it just did not dwell on, the weight of the situation and stuff. And a lot of the dialogue in this movie tends to be a bit too didactic, and I get that, the Bible is like that, but this is, again, is an adaptation of the story from the Bible, and there are certain parts where I really didn't want them to just spoon feed the meaning to the audience, because you could clearly see it, and then they decide to just kind of explain it to us, and it just felt kind of weird and out of place, given that the rest of the movie is, so reliant on these images and symbols and stuff, and suddenly we're getting this generic talk about what it's all supposed to mean. But other than that, I thought Noah was a pretty good movie overall. Again, when you watch a movie like this, please leave your religion at home. Please leave your beliefs at home. Just because it's not faithful to the story, or just because it's based on the story very loosely, don't let that affect how you watch it. This is just pretty much a blockbuster inspired by a really old story. And ultimately, I'm just happy Noah came out, because this finally means that the dispute between Solar and UIP has been resolved, which means maybe we'll get Neighbor, maybe A Million Ways to Die in the West. And I'm just happy because this means we're gonna get Interstellar. Yes. That's my review of Noah. Have you guys seen it? What do you guys think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment and let's have a conversation.